Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Instagram Live again. I'm back. I am very excited today. As I'm sure many of you have seen across a lot of the Instagrams of us millennial and Gen Zennials out there, we have been screaming to the high heavens to encourage people to vote and get out there and do your part. And not only if you're in the United States to get out there and vote and do your thing as a citizen, but also if you are not in the US, to still find ways to help shape this world and make it a better place. And today I have a very special guest. I am so excited to bring on the award-winning former chief White House correspondent from CNN, Jessica Yellin. She has been in the trenches in Washington in all of this hullabaloo, and she's coming on today because I have a very limited knowledge and experience in the voting process, and she is coming on to answer all of your questions and to talk a little bit about what's really going on out there from News Not Noise. So let me see if I can find her and bring her on. All right, this is my first time bringing someone else into my live, so let's see how this goes. Okay, I'm sending her now. See if she comes up. But in the meantime, there's so many resources out there. I'm wearing my I'm a Voter shirt because they've been so wonderful in spreading the word. Also, when we all vote, and there's a plethora of resources out there. It's so inspiring to see so many people come together to support everyone in getting the vote out there. It's really important this year with the pandemic that we all band together and make a plan and help each other out. If you have a friend who needs to get to the polls, or a neighbor or someone near you, someone in your bubble that you can help find a ride for or get out there. Or there's also a great resource called Pizza at the Polls that if you see a long line and text the number, I posted it a few days ago, they will send food in a COVID safe way to the polls to allow people to, be fed and allow the poll workers to get the food that they need to help keep things running and keep things going. And it's something that's so very important for all of us to do. It says Jessica was not able to join. I wonder what's going on. I'm just double checking my instructions. Well, I'm just going to keep talking to y'all till she gets here. But maybe if you guys have any questions, you can send them in and I will ask her. I have a list of questions that have been submitted for her as well. But I think it's so interesting to get the perspective of someone who has been on within the press circuit in all of this. We all know that there have been so many different sources of news out there and so many different stories of what's really happening. It's just important to hear it from someone who's ready to share and to be in this with us. Let me try Jessica one more time and see. I will send her this request again. Hopefully she'll be able to join us. So I hope everyone out there is doing well and being safe and all that. It's a really important time for all of us to get.
Hi,
hey, Jessica, welcome.
How are
I'm so glad you're here.
Sorry, that was hard.
It's okay. We're all figuring out this brave new world of technology.
All right, it's crazy. Hi.
Hi. How are you today?
Good. Few days left. Trying to keep the anxiety level down, like all of us, right?
Absolutely. We're getting there. It's encouraging that it seems like so many people are spreading the word and are getting out there and doing their part.
Absolutely. And I love your shirt. I am a voter. I am a voter too.
Fabulous.
All my swag's dirty.
Oh, that's okay. It's COVID, so you gotta be really important. Cleanliness is important as well. So I have a bunch of questions that have been submitted to talk to you about today. They burning questions people need to know. I think the first one, it's something that all of us who are newer to voting are really wondering. Do we circle or do we check the right choice? We get this question a lot, and a lot of people are embarrassed to ask because we just don't know.
I know, that's why it's a good thing for us to just have the chat. So in most places, you fill the circle in completely like our old high school tests. But in Texas, it's a box and you have to put in an X. So this is a reminder that you got to read those instructions. This is only for mail-in ballots because usually in person, it's different. But with those mail-in ballots, take the time to read the instructions. Don't assume you know.
Got it. That's something that a lot of us don't do is read the
I know.
terms and conditions. So what is this signature matching thing that I hear about?
This is really lame, but in a lot of states, more than 31 states, they have this rule where when you sign either the outside of your mail-in ballot or the actual ballot, officials will check that against whatever signature they have on file for you. Usually it's whatever you sign when you registered to vote. So hard to know how you signed that, right? What I recommend people do is sometimes you finish the ballot, you're so relieved, you just sign it absentmindedly. Don't do that. Still be focused, use your classic OG signature, and you'll be fine.
Got it. I know so many of us have been on devices lately. We've forgotten how to actually write things.
Totally. And there's one more point on this, which is if you track your ballot and they decide your signature doesn't match, in a lot of states you can see that and go in and fix it.
Okay. So another question is some people, there's a lot of things on the ballot and I've learned to kind of go through and do research and learn as much as I can about everything.
Yeah.
But there's some people who don't necessarily want to vote on everything. Can they leave some blank or what? How should I do that?
This is such a good question. I totally recommend that if you have a part of the ballot that you really feel you don't know anything about, you're fine to leave it blank. It still counts. It's okay to do your best, right? Like you said, you did your research. I'm sure you didn't know everything, but you made a best judgment, right? That's the best call. But if you're not comfortable, definitely leave some blank. It's better to vote a little than not vote at all.
So the ballot still counts if you don't fill it out all the way?
Simple answer, yes.
Got it. So what if you're voting by mail, but you mess up your ballot somehow? Do you get a new one, or how do you fix it if you make a mistake?
At this stage of the game, what I would do is go and vote in person. And in most states, if you have a mail-in ballot, you can still vote in person, but you should take the mail-in ballot with you so that when you get there, you can hand in the mail-in ballot and they'll give you the in-person ballot.
So if I requested a mail-in ballot, but I've changed my mind and I want to actually vote in person and be a part of it, I can still do that?
Totally.
Okay, great. See, there's so many options. Voting can be such a daunting thing for a newer voter. There's so many options out there.
There's so many options.
And so for the mail-in ballots, if you are mailing it, do you have to put postage on it, or is it already done?
You do not need postage. I would suggest, though, don't even use the mail service right now. Like, there's not enough time to be sure your ballot will get in on time via the mail. So if you have a mail-in ballot, what I would do now is go to a drop box, physically take it there, or go to an in-person voting center and hand it to a person at the in-person voting center. You can do that too.
Okay, great. And now here's a question that I had. If you're dropping your ballot off at a box, how do you find the legitimate ballot boxes to put them in?
I would just go into Google, where is a ballot box near me, and your county and state. It will pop up the website for your Secretary of State or County Board of Elections, and they'll tell you. If that doesn't work, on the News Not Noise website, there's a voter resources page, and you can find how to do all these things there. But it's super simple to just Google it.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So that's mail-in voting. We've got that covered.
Yes.
And now, say I want to vote in person. So we know that we all go and we vote and we do that, but what is not allowed to happen when
Couple things. The most important thing is if you show up to vote and let's say you're waiting in line a long time and the polling place closes, you have a right to vote. As long as you're there before it closes, stay in line. If for any reason somebody comes out and says, hey guys, I'm sorry, we're closed, you're gonna have to go home, call the election protection hotline. It's 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And I saw you posted a whole bunch of election protection numbers. Good on you. The simplest one for the whole country, 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And as you pointed out, they're there for any number of problems at the polling place. If they say we're closed, you can call that number and lawyers will get involved to get an injunction to open the place back up.
Okay, fantastic. It's so important. So there's these words floating around the internet, voter intimidation. What does that look like when you're out at the polls?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something like, let's say you're in line and somebody comes up to you and starts harassing you and asking you who you're going to vote for, or you're in the polling place and someone's over your shoulder watching. that's anything that gets in the way of you feeling you have an easy route to vote. More aggressive things, if let's say you're in a Latinx community and there's a bunch of ICE agents standing around near the polling place just in an intimidating way, or a lot of law enforcement officers, any of them with like campaign logo. Those things are not allowed. And if you see something that seems fishy, just call the election protection hotline, let them make a decision if it needs addressing.
Okay. Yeah, everybody has a right to feel safe and comfortable and to be able to cast their vote without a problem. So there's a lot of talk as well about provisional ballots. So what is a provisional ballot and when would I need one?
So provisional vote, it's a backup ballot. Let's say you get to the polling place, and this happened to me a couple years ago, and they said, you're not registered. And I'm like, no, I'm registered. And they're like, sorry, you're not on the list. And you don't really know what to do. You ask for, there's two things. First, ask, do we have same-day voter registration in this state? Some states allow you to register on the spot. If they don't, you have a right to a provisional ballot. And that is, again, a backup ballot. It's just like everyone else's ballot. You vote it just like anyone else. They save it to the end after they've done all the other counting, and then they check that you're legit and registered, and then they count it in. So it's a legit vote. You got to get a receipt when you leave so that you can track that it got counted.
Got it. So it's a good fail-safe worst-case scenario. My vote will get counted even if there was a mishap with something else.
Right. Eventually, it gets counted last.
You know what? Every vote counts.
Right.
It's counted.
That's right. Whenever
You
it gets
still be
counted.
the last kid picked on the playground. And there's a lot of talk about all this ballot tracking, and that's something I'm not super familiar with. So can you explain that process and what all that means?
Absolutely. It goes to all the things we've talked about. So let's say you did a mail-in ballot and you don't know, this is only for mail-in and provisional. When you track your ballot, you get to see when it's counted. And so, for example, let's say you're in a signature matching state. You'll learn if they actually decided that your vote's legit and counted it in, or if it was rejected. Now, you could get a notification in some states that your ballot was rejected, and they allow you to cure it, meaning you can go in person, show an ID, and make sure your vote is now counted. So it's a little more effort, but it's worth doing so that you know nobody's thrown out your ballot and that it does get counted.
Okay, that makes sense. It's, the mailing system and everything in this world has gotten so technologically advanced. Sometimes you just want to keep an eye on things and know where everything goes. So when it comes to election night, I remember the last presidential election, I was actually on set and we were watching all of the votes come in and all of the states come in. I've actually never voted in person. I've only voted via absentee ballot.
Because you're always on set or something?
Yeah, I've been working in Canada for several years. And then this year now, because of COVID, I decided to do the same thing. So this is kind of brand new for me, but people want to know what to expect on election night, that we may or may not know the result on the night. Can you sort of walk us through that since you've obviously been through it in the trenches yourself?
So this year, because of COVID, there are millions of mail-in ballots, more than ever before. And that takes a long time to count because they've never seen anything like this. So just the sheer volume will create a delay. Add to that the fact that in many states, you're by law not allowed to start counting mail-in ballots until Election Day or hours before Election Day. So some states have effectively a warehouse full of millions of ballots sitting there waiting to be opened and addressed. So it's going to take those states a while to tabulate their returns. We're all spoiled. We're so used to getting election results that night. And those aren't official. That's just the media. It's the news that calls the election first. The officials take sometimes weeks to certify the vote. So I'm not saying it's going to be weeks. I'm just saying this time around, it might take at least 24 hours to know who won, maybe 48. If it's very, very close, both sides are lawyered up and ready to get involved, they could start contesting votes. So that's when we look into a longer situation. We won't talk about that yet. We can talk about it if it happens. But for me, on Election Day, I'm going to watch Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, and Ohio. Those are states where they are swing battleground states where either candidate could win and they count all the ballots early. so you could have a same day result in those states.
Got it. And those are key states that will sort of be indicative as to which way the rest of the nation is going to go.
100%. Plus, if Biden wins Florida, the president doesn't have a path to victory. So Florida could be decisive that night.
Listen up, Florida. Get out there and get your vote counted. So just make sure that Florida counts for something.
Florida's caused so much trouble before. You never know what'll happen there.
It's true. But you know what? As long as people get out there and they follow the rules and they cast their vote, the way the nation is set up will follow suit.
I absolutely agree. We just need to make sure people's voices are heard.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about, is getting everyone's voice heard. And another thing I wanted to ask you, there's so many different sources of news out there and so many different stories being told. Where and how should people kind of go about sifting through all the different perspectives?
So in general, what I advise is that you pick a few news sources that are your go-tos and you check them regularly. So maybe a little bit, one a little left, one a little right, but you have a bucket of your places. On election day itself, the Associated Press, which is like the most reliable, neutral, nonpartisan, hardcore, amazing journalism outfit, is going to be tallying votes from all over the country. And they're like one of the main warehouses for getting information in, and then they filter it to all the other news organizations. So the Associated Press is a great place for people to follow no matter your politics. I really rely on them. And they can follow me on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, is there anything else that you want to point people to or talk about today?
The only other thing I'd say is if you've already voted, and I know you have, the next thing you could do to make a difference is call up 3 of your friends and ask if they need any help figuring out what's on the ballot or where their polling place is. Because research shows that when you get a nudge from your friend, you're way more likely to vote.
Amazing. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today and answering these questions. And to all the voters out there, whether you've voted before, this is your first time, no matter how you vote, no matter what it is, just make sure your voice is heard. And no matter what you believe, that you take charge of this time and this opportunity that we have to shape the nation that we want to see in the future.
Fully endorse. You're fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have such a great day. Bye-bye.